Hello, I am re-recording the part 2 video for the Mystify effect because I messed up the recording the first time. I just had to throw out an hour of uh, recorded video, pre-editing, but still. I forgot to send the camera view to the display, so I recorded the whole thing from my point of view, which is fine if I'm planning on doing that, but I moved my head around way too much when I didn't know I was recording from my head and keep looking at the camera that is not doing anything anyway. So this one is probably going to be a lot shorter, partly because I know what I'm doing and partly because I don't want to spend another hour doing this. Okay, what we are doing is trying to connect 2 points with a line. So basically draw a line between 2 points except in 3 dimensions. My lighting isn't very good facing in this direction, is it? Let us move to the other side of the platform. Okay, try this again. We want to connect 2 points with a line, and that line will just be a cylinder. So, like that, except that when we move the point around, we want the line to stay connecting them. Now, one easy and obvious thing to do that doesn't quite do what we want is to attach a look at component to the line and make it a child of one of the spheres and look at the other one. So we're just going to organize everything into this object. So, what we are going to do, as an example of what almost but not quite works, is make the cylinder. Why does that sphere have more children? More childs, huh? Cylinder is a child of the sphere. Now, which sphere is it a child of? Okay, it's a child of the left one. And we want to rotate around the same point as the sphere, so I'll just make a new empty object there. Make the cylinder child of that. Now on this empty object, we're going to attach component, transform, drivers, look at, and we're going to tell that to look at the second sphere, which means we'll set the second sphere to the target. And you see my cylinder got out of position. That's no problem. We'll just put it back there. Okay, now if your 2 points that you're trying to attach with a line will remain an equal distance apart, this will work. So, we're drawing a line between 2 points, but you can see if the distance changes, that does not draw a line between them. So forget about that whole look at component. What we do instead is we don't make the cylinder a child of either line. And on the cylinder, we attach a component called, I think it's line transform. Yes, line transform. And we tell the cylinder to transform itself on a line in between the two spheres. So on the line transform component, this is way too close to my face, but hopefully you can see it better. We give it 0.0 anchor of one of the spheres, one of the points, 0.1 anchor of the other one. And we set it to be equidistant between the two, so we set its line point to 0.5. Now, 0 is at the same position as one of its anchors, 1 is at the same position as the other, so 0.5 is halfway in between. And obviously the rotation is a little bit off. I'm going to make sure that the cylinder has 0 rotations and everything before I start messing with it. Okay. Now it has no rotations, and we're probably going to need to rotate it around. Well, let me show you what it's doing first. So with a line transform, it stays halfway in between the two spheres at all times. And it actually is rotating to maintain an orientation between the two spheres also. But it's rotated wrong because it's rotating around the blue axis, or no, it's rotating around, it's pointing along the blue axis, which I think is Z, maybe. I can never remember. That's okay, we just go back down to the line transform here, and this has a rotation offset, so we set the correct axes to 90 degrees to get it to go where we want. Like if we do X90, Y0, Z0, okay, that's all we needed, is rotate around X by 90. Now, it's doing almost the same thing as the look at did, except that it's centered in between the 2 points, which is important for the next step. And that is we need to adjust its length as the distance between the 2 points change. Now, what we are going to do is adjust its scale along the, the y-axis, I think. I think that's the lengthwise scale. If we set its scale to 2, yep, that's the one. Now, it is very important that we started out with a scale of 1. And that means if we set its scale to be the distance between the 2 points, it will exactly span the 2 points. If it started out with a y scale of something other than 1, it would be too long or too short, and we'd have additional math to do. And we don't want to do extra math, we just want to make this as simple as possible. So, if we calculate the distance between the two spheres, which means we need a reference to that sphere. Actually, I don't know which, okay, that one. And we need a node, LogiX node, to calculate the distance. I don't think we need transform, actually. It might be in operators rather than math. It is. Okay, so distance between this sphere and this one, we can debug that. Okay, they are 0.668 meters apart. Now they are 0.89 meters apart. Easy for me to say, right? So that is doing what we wanted it to, which means that all we need to do is take that distance and set the length of the cylinder to that distance, and it will exactly span those 2 points. So there's the cylinder, and the length is its Y scale, we said. Now scale is a 3-component value. So we need a pack XYZ, and we are setting the Y component of the scale to the distance between the two spheres, and the other two we want to keep as 1. We do not want to change the other two. And we'll just set that into its scale. Okay. I did something wrong. What did I do wrong? I know. I messed up what I was saying. We don't care that the scale is 1 because we're setting that. What has to be 1 is its height. Its height has to be exactly 1. Sorry. So we go down to cylinder mesh here. Which is the thing that sets its size when we create it from the primitive tool. And its height has to be exactly 1 for the math to be simple. And actually its radius, if we want to make it look like a single line with nice curved rounded ends, we set the cylinder to the same radius as the 2 spheres. So we will set that to a nice round number like 0.02. Yeah, it's a little small, let's call it 0.03. Okay, its height must be exactly 1. Remember that, I was wrong earlier. Which is kind of strange considering this is at least the second time I've run through it. And while we're here, we'll also set these spheres to a radius of 0.03. That way they'll be the same size as the line, and it will look like a line with rounded ends. I have to find the sphere mesh radius. Why does my keyboard always have to appear behind everything? 0.03. Other sphere. Sphere mesh radius 0.03. Enter. Okay, I'll set that back at a more reasonable distance. So now we have a line connecting 2 points, and that's what we wanted. I'm just going to take the grabbable off of the cylinder so I don't accidentally grab it. And you saw this very simple logics. It's just setting the y component of the scale to be equal to the distance between the 2 points, so I can go ahead and hide that logics. Set packing route. Goodbye logics. And we probably don't even need the scene inspector anymore. So there you have it, drawing a line between 2 points. If it glitches when I grab it, but that's because when you grab something that's being set as like a child of your hand or something like that, if you move the points programmatically with logics, it won't glitch like that. But you can see no matter how far apart I put the 2 points, it maintains the distance between them. And now that we made the points on the end and the line the same radius, it's got a nice smooth look like a line with rounded ends. I mean, not exactly, you can see a little seam there, but it's fairly close. So that's all there is to it. That is how you draw a line between 2 points in 3 dimensions, or at least that is one way to do it. Not really a line, it's like a volumetric line. In the first video that I messed up, I showed applying this to the Mystify screensaver effect, which was kind of interesting because I was editing it as it bounced around, so you saw all the lines attaching themselves to the points and getting longer and shorter, and I'm not going to redo that. I'll just point you at what we have and say, that's the result. So that's the result. You've got the bouncing points connected by lines. I know they're both the same color. I was just breaking that last night, so I have to go back and change the color of one of them. Now, that's what happens when you draw lines between bouncing points. And this is definitely a much shorter part 2 than the original.